Come on. I know you made a mistake somewhere. And when I find it, you are finished.
I stared at the red, insufficient funds stamp on the returned payment, my coffee growing cold in the cramped kitchen of my studio apartment. 3 months behind now, and Vanessa's lawyer had already sent 2 threatening letters. Meanwhile, my ex-wife was posting Instagram photos from the Ritz-Carlton spa, flashing a diamond tennis bracelet that cost more than my annual rent. Michael Farrell, 43 years old, intelligence analyst for a government contractor, living like a college student because his Colombian bombshell ex-wife had cleaned him out in the divorce. The irony wasn't lost on me. I spent my days tracking financial irregularities for national security, but couldn't balance my own checkbook. My phone buzzed with a text from Richie Pollard, my only remaining friend. "Drinks tonight? You look like hell lately." He wasn't wrong. The mirror in my bathroom showed a guy who'd aged 5 years in the past 12 months. Gray creeping into my brown hair, lines around my eyes that hadn't been there when Nessa and I were married. She'd taken the house in Arlington, the BMW, and most of our mutual friends. I got the debt and a 1-bedroom apartment that smelled like the previous tenant's cat. But what really burned was knowing she was living better than ever. I grabbed my laptop and did what had become my daily ritual, checking Nessa's social media. There she was at another embassy function, stunning in a black cocktail dress, laughing with her boss, Daniel Russo. Danny was everything I wasn't. Tall, silver-haired, drove a Maserati, and wore suits that cost more than my monthly salary. The comments from her girlfriends made my stomach turn. "You two look amazing together. Finally found your prince girl. So much better than that boring government guy." That boring government guy was still paying her bills, or trying to. The divorce decree required me to cover her credit cards until she established financial independence. At this rate, that would be never. I scrolled through more photos. Nessa at a wine tasting in Napa. Designer handbags lined up on her bed. A receipt for a $30,000 engagement ring that Danny had apparently bought her, posted with the caption, "Some men know how to treat a lady." $30,000. I made $62,000 a year before taxes. My phone rang. Nessa's ringtone. I still hadn't changed it from our wedding song, which now felt like psychological torture. "Mike, we need to talk." Her voice had that edge it got when she wanted something. "If this is about the alimony, it's not about money." Well, not directly. "I'm at the Hay Adams with some friends. Can you come up? Room 412. I almost laughed. "You want me to come to your hotel room with your friends so they can mock me in person instead of just online?" "Please, Mike. It's important. And bring that key." "What key?" The line went dead. I sat there for a moment staring at my phone. What key? Then I remembered. When we'd divided up our belongings, there had been a small silver key in her jewelry box that neither of us could identify. I'd taken it, figuring it was probably nothing important. Curiosity eliminated the cat, but I'd already lost everything else. The Hay Adams was the kind of place Nessa loved. Old money, crystal chandeliers, the type of establishment where a beer cost $20. I felt underdressed in my khakis and polo shirt as I rode the elevator to the 4th floor. Room 412 was a suite. Of course it was. Nessa answered the door looking like she'd stepped off a magazine cover. Her dark hair was perfectly styled, her makeup flawless. The red dress probably cost more than my car payment. Behind her, I could see her usual crowd. Carmen Rodriguez, a fellow embassy worker who'd never liked me, and Taylor Morrison, whose husband owned half of Georgetown. "Mike, you actually came." Carmen's smile was razor sharp. "We were just talking about you." "I'm sure you were." I looked at Nessa. "What's this about?" She glanced at her friends, then back at me. "Maybe we should talk privately." "Oh, no," Taylor said, settling back into her chair with a glass of champagne. "This affects all of us. Tell him, Nessa." My ex-wife's composure cracked slightly. "Mike, I need that key, the small silver one from my jewelry box." "Why?" "It opens a safety deposit box. There are some things in there that, well, they're personal." Carmen laughed. "Personal? Honey, there's nothing personal about business." A chill ran down my spine. "What kind of business?" "The kind that pays for all this." Taylor gestured around the suite. "Did you really think Nessa could afford her lifestyle on an embassy salary?" I looked at my ex-wife, seeing her clearly for perhaps the first time. "What have you been doing, Nessa?" She lifted her chin defiantly. "What I had to do. You never could provide for me the way I deserved, Mike. Danny understands what a woman needs. Danny's married." "Not for long. His wife doesn't appreciate him." Carmen leaned forward. Show him the photos, Nessa. Let him see what real success looks like. Nessa reluctantly pulled out her phone, scrolling through images. Danny at a private poker game with men I didn't recognize. Stacks of cash on a hotel room bed. Bank deposit slips with amounts that made my head spin. Where is this money coming from? Information, Taylor said casually. Turns out embassy secrets are quite valuable to the right buyers. The room went silent. I stared at the three women, processing what I'd just heard. You're selling classified information? We prefer to think of it as consulting, Carmen said. Danny has connections, Nessa has access, and we all benefit. This is treason, Nessa's eyes flashed. This is survival. Do you know what it's like being married to someone who clips coupons, who drives a 10-year-old Honda and thinks Olive Garden is fine dining? I was dying, Mike, slowly suffocating in your mediocre little life. So you decided to become a spy? I decided to finally live. She held out her hand. The key, Mike, I need what's in that box. I pulled the small silver key from my pocket, holding it up. What's in there? More blood money? Insurance, Taylor said. Documents that ensure everyone keeps their mouth shut. Including me? Carmen's smile turned carnivory. Especially you. I pocketed the key. I think I'll hold on to this for now. Mike, Nessa started. No, I've spent the last year thinking I was the failure in our marriage, that I wasn't good enough, wasn't successful enough, wasn't man enough for you. But it turns out you're a criminal. I headed for the door, but Carmen's voice stopped me. You might want to be careful, Mike. Danny doesn't like problems. I turned back. Is that a threat? It's friendly advice from someone who cares about your well-being. I left the suite with my mind racing. My ex-wife was involved in espionage. She'd been living off blood money while I struggled to pay alimony, and now they were threatening me. But as I rode the elevator down, something else occurred to me. For the first time in a year, I had leverage. The question was, what was I going to do with it? I spent the next 3 days researching everything I could find about Daniel Russo. My security clearance gave me access to databases most people never knew existed, and what I discovered made my blood run cold. Danny wasn't just Nessa's boss. He was a high-level cultural attaché with access to sensitive diplomatic communications. His financial records showed a lifestyle far beyond his government salary. Multiple offshore accounts, luxury purchases paid in cash, and a pattern of travel that coincided with known intelligence leaks. But I needed more than suspicions. I needed proof. That's when I called Richie. Richard Pollard had been my partner when I briefly worked for the FBI, before transitioning to contract intelligence work. He'd left the bureau to start his own private investigation firm, specializing in corporate espionage and infidelity cases. If anyone could help me build a case against Nessa and Danny, it was him. We met at Murphy's Pub, a dive bar in Arlington that served cheap beer and minded its own business. Richie looked the same as always. Thick build, graying beard, eyes that missed nothing. You look like hell, Mike. Thanks. That's what everyone keeps telling me. He signaled the bartender for 2 beers. So what's this about? Your text sounded urgent. I told him everything. The hotel room confrontation, the photos, the threats. By the time I finished, Richie was leaning back in his chair, whistling softly. Jesus, Mike. Your ex-wife is running a spy ring? Looks that way, and I'm sitting on the key to their insurance policy. Have you looked at what's in that deposit box? Not yet. I wanted to talk to you first. Richie took a long pull of his beer. This is serious stuff. If they're selling embassy secrets, we're talking federal crimes. Life in prison, serious. I know, but I also know they're threatening me to keep quiet. What do you want to do? I'd been thinking about that for 3 days. I want to destroy them, all of them, but I want to do it right, legally. Revenge? Justice, there's a difference. Richie studied my face. Is there? Because you sound like a man who wants to hurt people. They hurt me first. For a year, I've been beating myself up, thinking I was the problem. Meanwhile, Nessa's been living off blood money and laughing about it with her friends. And you want payback. I want them to face consequences, real ones. Richie was quiet for a moment. Okay, but we do this smart. No cowboy stuff, no breaking laws ourselves. We build an airtight case and hand it to the right people. Agreed. First step is finding out what's in that deposit box. You have any idea which bank? I pulled out my phone, showing him a photo I'd taken of Nessa's purse contents during our marriage, a habit from my investigative training that had annoyed her. First National, downtown branch. I remember her going there monthly, always alone. Good. We'll need to get in there legally. As her ex-husband, you might have some claim to joint assets. The key was in our shared property. Even better, let's pay them a visit tomorrow. The next morning, I met Richie outside First National Bank. The building was old-school elegant, all marble and brass, the kind of place that catered to Washington's elite. The safety deposit box clerk was a thin woman in her 50s who looked like she'd worked there since the Carter administration. She examined the key and my identification with professional skepticism. Mr. Farrell, this box was rented by your ex-wife after your divorce was finalized. But paid for with joint assets, I lied smoothly. Assets I'm still responsible for under our decree. She consulted her computer. The rental fee was paid in cash. Cash that came from our joint accounts. Richie stepped forward, showing his private investigator's license. We're investigating potential fraud involving these assets. Mr. Farrell has every right to examine property purchased with marital funds. The clerk looked uncertain. I'll need to call my supervisor. 20 minutes and 3 phone calls later, we were escorted to the vault. The safety deposit box was larger than I'd expected, big enough to hold documents, cash, maybe even weapons. Inside, I found exactly what I'd feared. Photographs of embassy personnel in compromising situations, financial records showing payments from shell companies, USB drives labeled with dates and dollar amounts, and a handwritten ledger in Nessa's careful script documenting information sold and payments received. But the most damning evidence was a series of letters, insurance policies, as Taylor had called them, detailed accusations against various embassy personnel, including me, claiming I was the mastermind behind the entire operation. They're setting you up, Richie said quietly. If this ever comes to light, I'm the fall guy. I photographed everything with my phone. Nessa's positioned herself as the innocent sufferer, manipulated by her controlling ex-husband. Smart. Diabolical, but smart. I found something else at the bottom of the box. A second key, this one to a post office box. The receipt showed it was in Georgetown, rented under a false name. We need to see what's in that box, too. Mike, this is getting dangerous. If they find out you've been here, they already threaten me. What's the worst they can do? Famous last words. The Georgetown post office box contained more of the same, evidence of espionage, but also something new. Correspondence with Russian contacts, names, dates, and payment schedules. Nessa and Danny weren't just selling information to the highest bidder, they were working directly with foreign intelligence. As we left the post office, I noticed a black SUV following us. It stayed 3 cars back, professional surveillance. We've got company, I told Richie. He checked his mirrors. Yeah, I see them. How do you want to handle this? Let's find out who they are. Richie took a series of quick turns, using his knowledge of DC traffic patterns to box in the SUV. When we pulled up beside them at a red light, I got a clear look at the driver, a thick-necked man in his 30s wearing an expensive suit. He saw me looking and smiled. Then he held up his phone, showing me a photo of my apartment building. The message was clear. We know where you live. This just escalated, Richie said. Good. I was getting tired of playing defense. That evening, I sat in my apartment going through everything we'd found. The evidence was overwhelming, enough to put Nessa, Danny, and their co-conspirators away for life. But I also knew that if I simply turned it over to the FBI, there was a good chance the case would get buried in bureaucracy while the suspects disappeared. I needed a different approach, something that would expose them publicly before they could run or destroy evidence. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. You've been busy today. Time to talk. Midnight. Lincoln Memorial. Come alone. I showed the message to Richie, who was crashing on my couch for security reasons. It's a trap. Probably. But it's also an opportunity. To get yourself eliminated? To end this. I'm tired of being the sufferer, Rich. It's time to go on offense. And if they're planning to eliminate you, I smiled for the first time in days. Then they're about to learn that the boring government guy has some tricks of his own. The Lincoln Memorial at midnight was appropriately dramatic. Shadows and marble, the weight of history pressing down on the empty space. I arrived early, positioning myself where I could see all approaches. My phone was recording, and I'd sent copies of all evidence to Richie with instructions to release everything if I didn't check in by morning. Danny Russo emerged from the darkness like a movie villain, his expensive overcoat flapping in the wind. He wasn't alone. 2 men flanked him, the same type who'd been following me earlier. Mike, thanks for coming. Did I have a choice? He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. There's always a choice. The question is whether you make the smart one. And what would that be? Walk away. Forget what you think you know. Go back to your sad little life and leave us alone. In exchange for your continued existence. I laughed, surprising myself. You're threatening to eliminate me? Over what? Some embassy gossip? Over national security, over millions of dollars, over things that are bigger than your wounded pride? My wounded pride? I stepped closer, anger finally overriding caution. You stole my wife, destroyed my marriage, and turned me into a laughingstock, and now you want me to just walk away? I didn't steal anything. Nessa came to me willingly. She was tired of being married to a loser. A loser who's been paying her bills while she plays spy games with you. Danny's composure cracked slightly. Those bills are nothing compared to what we're earning. Nessa deserves better than coupon clipping and early bird dinners. She deserves prison. That's not going to happen. Why? Because you'll eliminate me first? He gestured to his companions. If necessary. I pulled out my phone, showing him the recording app. This conversation is being live-streamed to a secure server. If something happens to me, everything goes public in 6 hours. It was a bluff. I didn't have that capability. But Danny didn't know that. You're smarter than I thought. Smart enough to know that you can't eliminate your way out of this. Too many people know. Too much evidence exists. Evidence can be destroyed. People can disappear. Like embassy secrets, like classified information. You've been selling out your country for what? Luxury cars and expensive dinners? Danny's mask finally slipped, showing the cold calculation underneath. Countries are just lines on maps, Mike. Loyalty is a luxury for people who can afford it. I have expenses. A wife, a mistress, gambling debts. Yeah, I know about the poker games. His eyes narrowed. You don't know anything. I know you owe the wrong people money. I know Nessa's not your only source. I know about the Russian contacts. That hit home. Danny stepped back, his confidence shaken. What do you want? I want my life back. I want the truth to come out. I want justice. Justice? He laughed harshly. You want revenge. You want to hurt Nessa because she chose a real man over a government drone. I want her to face consequences for her choices. And if I refuse, I smiled, feeling more confident than I had in months. Then tomorrow morning, every news outlet in Washington gets a very interesting package. Photos, documents, recordings. Your face on every front page, your name in every headline. You're bluffing. Try me. We stared at each other for a long moment. Finally, Danny nodded to his men and they stepped back. This isn't over. Yes, it is. You just don't know it yet. He turned to leave, then stopped. You think exposing us will give you your life back? You think people will respect you more? I think they'll respect the truth. The truth is that you're a bitter ex-husband who couldn't satisfy his wife. That won't change no matter what happens to us. Maybe not, but at least I'll sleep better at night. Danny walked away, leaving me alone with Lincoln's marble gaze. I'd won the confrontation, but I knew it was just the beginning. He'd try to destroy evidence, eliminate witnesses, maybe even flee the country. I needed to move fast. The next morning, I met with FBI Special Agent Sarah Chen, a counterintelligence specialist I'd worked with in the past. I laid out everything, the evidence, the threats, the midnight meeting. This is explosive stuff, Mike. If even half of it's true, it's all true. I have documentation. She studied the photographs and documents I'd copied. Why bring this to me instead of going through official channels? Because I know how these things work. Reports get filed, investigations get started, and subjects get tipped off. By the time you move, they'll be gone. And you want them arrested now. I want them stopped now. Sarah was quiet for a moment. There's something else, isn't there? This is personal for you. They destroyed my life. They're planning to frame me for their crimes. Yeah, it's personal. Revenge isn't justice, Mike. Sometimes it's close enough. She looked at me carefully. If we do this, if we move fast and hard, you need to be prepared for the consequences. Your ex-wife is going to prison. Your name will be in the papers. Your life will never be the same. My life is already ruined. At least this way, it won't be for nothing. Okay, give me everything you have. We'll coordinate with embassy security and move within 48 hours. What about my safety? Danny's not going to just sit back and wait. We'll provide protection, safe house if necessary. I shook my head. I'm not hiding. Let them come. Mike. I've been running from this for too long. It ends now. That afternoon, I went back to my apartment to wait. I knew Danny would make another move. He couldn't afford to let me live with what I knew. But I was ready for him. I wasn't the same broken man who'd been served divorce papers a year ago. I'd found my spine, my purpose, my fight, and I was going to finish this. They came at 3 in the morning. I was awake, sitting in my darkened living room with a baseball bat and my phone ready to call 911. The soft click of my apartment lock being picked was barely audible, but I'd been expecting it. 2 figures slipped through my door, professionals moving with practiced silence. They thought they were hunting a helpless government analyst. They were wrong. I'd spent the evening preparing. Furniture moved to create choke points, improvised weapons positioned strategically, my phone set to automatically dial emergency services if I didn't input a code every 30 minutes. The first intruder made it 3 steps before I brought the bat down on his knee. The crack echoed through the apartment as he dropped, screaming. His partner spun toward me, reaching for something under his jacket. I was already moving, tackling him into the kitchen. We crashed into the counter, sending dishes flying. He was bigger than me, but I was fighting for my life while he was just doing a job. I grabbed a kitchen knife from the counter, pressing it against his throat. "Who sent you?" "Go to hell!" I pressed harder, drawing a thin line of blood. "Danny Russo sent you, I know that. What I want to know is what the plan was. Eliminate me? Make it look like an accident?" The man's eyes showed fear for the first time. "Scare you. Just scare you." "With what, harsh language?" "Knock you up. Send a message." The message being, "Keep your mouth shut or next time we finish the job." I heard sirens in the distance. My phone's automatic alert had worked. "Well, you can tell Danny that I got his message, and here's mine." I grabbed his phone, scrolling through recent calls until I found Danny's number. I hit dial and put it on speaker. "Is it done?" Danny's voice was tense. "It's done," I said, "but not the way you planned." Silence. Then, "Mike? Your boys are currently bleeding on my kitchen floor. The police are on their way up. And in about 6 hours, every news outlet in the city is going to receive a very interesting package." "You son of a..." "I'm also sending copies to the Russian embassy, just so they know their asset has been compromised. I wonder how they handle security breaches." The line went dead. The police arrived 2 minutes later, followed by paramedics and FBI agents. Agent Chen looked around my destroyed apartment with professional interest. "You okay?" "Better than them." I nodded toward the 2 intruders who were being treated for their injuries. They came to deliver a message from Danny Russo. "What kind of message?" "The kind delivered with baseball bats and brass knuckles." She smiled grimly. "Well, they just handed us attempted attack charges to go with the espionage. We can move tonight instead of waiting." "Good, I'm tired of playing defense." The arrests happened simultaneously at dawn. Danny at his Georgetown townhouse, Nessa at her Arlington condo, Carmen and Taylor at their respective homes. The coordination was perfect. No one had time to warn the others or destroy evidence. I watched from the FBI surveillance van as they brought Nessa out in handcuffs. She looked smaller somehow, vulnerable in her designer pajamas and bare feet. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Then I remembered the threats, the mockery, the year of self-doubt she'd put me through. The feeling passed. "How do you feel?" Agent Chen asked. "Like I can finally breathe again." The media circus started within hours. Embassy spy ring exposed. Diplomatic secrets sold to Russia. Government contractor uncovers treason. My name was in every story, but this time as the hero instead of the sufferer. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd become famous for destroying my ex-wife. Richie found me at Murphy's Pub that evening, celebrating with a beer and a basket of wings. "You did it." "We did it." "How does it feel?" I considered the question. "Different than I expected. I thought I'd feel more satisfied." "Revenge isn't as sweet as people think." "This wasn't revenge. This was justice." "Was it? Or was it a broken man lashing out at the people who hurt him?" I looked at my friend. Does it matter? They were criminals. They were selling out their country. They deserved to be stopped. And the fact that one of them was your ex-wife who humiliated you made it personal, but not wrong. Richie raised his beer. "To justice, then, however we define it, to justice." We drank, and I felt something I hadn't experienced in over a year. Peace. Not happiness, not satisfaction, but the absence of the constant anger that had been eating me alive. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "You think you've won, but this isn't over. There are consequences for what you've done. I showed it to Richie. Probably one of their associates. You want me to trace it? I deleted the message. Let them come. I'm not hiding anymore. Mike, I spent a year being afraid. Afraid I wasn't good enough, wasn't successful enough, wasn't man enough. I'm done being afraid. And if they try again? I smiled, feeling more confident than I had since before my marriage fell apart. Then they'll learn the same lesson Danny did. The boring government guy has some fight in him after all. The trials wouldn't start for months, but the outcome was inevitable. The evidence was overwhelming, the charges serious. Nessa, Danny, and their co-conspirators were looking at decades in federal prison. I'd gotten my revenge, my justice, my life back. But more importantly, I'd gotten myself back. The man who'd been broken by divorce and humiliation was gone, replaced by someone harder, more confident, more dangerous. Someone who wouldn't be underestimated again. As I walked home through the DC streets, I felt like I was seeing the city with new eyes. The same monuments, the same buildings, but I was different now. I was no longer the sufferer of my own story. I was the hero. 3 weeks after the arrests, I thought it was over. The media attention had died down, the FBI had concluded their investigation, and the defendants were awaiting trial. I'd even started dating again, a nice woman from my office who seemed impressed by my newfound notoriety. That's when Carmen's mother called. Elena Rodriguez was old money Washington, the kind of woman who'd been attending embassy parties since the Kennedy administration. Her voice on the phone was cultured, controlled, and absolutely furious. Mr. Farrell, I believe we need to discuss your recent activities. I don't think we have anything to discuss, Mrs. Rodriguez. Oh, but we do. You see, your little revenge scheme has had consequences you didn't anticipate. Such as, my daughter's children. Carmen has 2 young boys who are now facing the social stigma of having a mother in federal prison. Their father has filed for divorce and full custody. I felt a flicker of guilt, quickly suppressed. That's unfortunate, but Carmen made her choices. Did she? Or was she manipulated by your ex-wife and her lover, just as you claim you were? Carmen was an adult. She knew what she was doing. Carmen was a single mother struggling to provide for her children on a government salary. When Nessa offered her easy money, she saw a way to give her boys the life they deserved. By committing treason. By making a mistake, one that you've ensured she'll pay for with her freedom and her family. I was quiet for a moment. What do you want, Mrs. Rodriguez? I want you to reconsider your testimony. Emphasize that Carmen was a minor player, manipulated by the others. Help her get a reduced sentence. In exchange for what? In exchange for me not revealing certain information about your own activities, my blood went cold. What information? Did you really think your investigation went unnoticed? That your break-ins, your surveillance, your theft of evidence would remain secret? I didn't steal anything. That key was legally mine. Was it? According to my sources, that safety deposit box was rented after your divorce was finalized. You had no legal right to access it. My sources disagree. Your sources aren't federal judges, and breaking into a post office box using a stolen key? That's a felony, Mr. Farrell. I felt the walls closing in. You're bluffing. Am I? I have security footage from both locations. I have witnesses who saw you conducting illegal surveillance. I have evidence that you've been stalking your ex-wife for months. I was investigating criminal activity. You were a bitter ex-husband seeking revenge. And if that story comes out, it undermines everything. Your heroic narrative crumbles, the prosecution's case becomes tainted, and my daughter walks free while you go to prison. I sat down heavily, my mind racing. What exactly are you proposing? Testify that Carmen was coerced. Emphasize her minimal role. Help her get probation instead of prison time. And if I refuse, then tomorrow morning every defense attorney in this case receives a very detailed report about your illegal activities. The prosecution's star witness becomes a criminal defendant. I was quiet for a long moment, considering my options. Finally, I asked, how do I know you won't release this information anyway? Because I'm not interested in destroying you, Mr. Farrell. I'm interested in protecting my family. And if I agree to this, it stays buried forever. I made my decision. I'll need to see this evidence first. Of course. Can you meet me this evening? The Willard Hotel, 7 o'clock. I'll be there. I hung up and immediately called Richie. We have a problem. The Willard Hotel was elegant in an old-fashioned way, all marble and crystal and the weight of political history. Elena Rodriguez was waiting in the lobby bar. a woman in her 70s who carried herself like royalty. She was impeccably dressed, her silver hair perfect, her jewelry understated but expensive. "Mr. Farrell, thank you for coming. Show me what you have." She slid a tablet across the table. The screen showed security footage from First National Bank, me and Richie talking to the clerk, accessing the safety deposit box, photographing the contents. "This proves I accessed a box that I had a key to. A key you had no legal right to possess." She swiped to the next video. "And this?" The Georgetown Post Office. Me using the second key to access the mailbox, removing documents, photographing everything. "Breaking and entering, theft of mail, federal crimes, Mr. Farrell. I was investigating espionage. You were conducting illegal surveillance without a warrant, without authority, without any legal justification beyond your personal vendetta." She was right, and we both knew it. In my anger and desire for revenge, I'd crossed lines that could put me in prison. "What exactly do you want me to say about Carmen?" "The truth. That she was struggling financially, that she was manipulated by Nessa and Danny, that her role was minimal." It wasn't minimal. She was actively involved in selling secrets. She was a courier. She passed along information that others obtained and processed. She was the least culpable of all the defendants. I studied the woman across from me. "You're protecting your daughter. I'm protecting my grandchildren. They don't deserve to grow up with the stigma of having a mother in federal prison, and you're willing to destroy me to do it, if necessary." I made my decision. I want something in return. You're hardly in a position to negotiate. I want Nessa to serve the full sentence. No deals, no reductions. She was the mastermind, and she destroyed my life in the process. Elena considered this. "I have no particular loyalty to your ex-wife. If you help Carmen, I have no problem with Nessa facing the full consequences of her actions." "And Danny?" "The same. My concern is solely for my daughter." "Then we have a deal." She smiled for the first time. "I'm glad you're being reasonable. I'm being practical. But Mrs. Rodriguez?" "Yes." "If you ever threaten me again, if you ever try to manipulate me again, I'll release everything I have about your daughter's activities. And I have a lot more than what came out in court." Her smile faded. "I understand." "Good, because I may have made mistakes in how I investigated this, but I'm not the criminal here. Your daughter is. She's also a mother. So was my mother. It didn't excuse her mistakes either." I left the hotel feeling like I'd been through a blender. The woman had outmaneuvered me completely, using my own illegal activities to force my cooperation. But I'd salvaged what I could. Nessa and Danny would still face the full weight of justice. The next morning, I called Agent Chen and told her about the meeting. "She's right about the legal issues, Mike. What you did was technically illegal." "Technically?" "You broke into a safety deposit box and a post office box without proper authority. Any defense attorney worth their fee could use that to challenge the evidence." "So what do I do?" "Exactly what she suggested. Emphasize Carmen's minimal role, focus on the main perpetrators. The prosecution still has enough evidence to convict everyone." "And my legal exposure?" "If you cooperate, if you help ensure convictions on the main charges, I doubt anyone will want to prosecute you for the investigative methods. You uncovered a major espionage ring." "But it's possible? It's possible." I spent the next week preparing for my testimony, working with prosecutors to craft a narrative that would satisfy Elena Rodriguez while still ensuring justice for the main conspirators. The trial was a media circus. Cameras, reporters, protesters outside the courthouse. I testified for 2 days, detailing how I discovered the conspiracy, emphasizing Carmen's limited role while painting Nessa and Danny as the masterminds. Under cross-examination, the defense attorneys tried to portray me as a bitter ex-husband seeking revenge. They weren't entirely wrong, but the evidence spoke for itself. "Mr. Farrell," Danny's lawyer asked, "isn't it true that you conducted this investigation primarily to hurt your ex-wife?" "I conducted this investigation because I discovered that classified information was being sold to foreign agents. My personal feelings were irrelevant." "But you did have personal feelings about Mrs. Farrell. She was my ex-wife. Of course I had feelings. Feelings of anger, resentment, a desire for revenge, feelings of betrayal. She'd been living off the proceeds of espionage while I struggled to pay alimony. So, this was about money? This was about justice. Justice or revenge?" I looked directly at the jury. Sometimes they're the same thing. The verdicts came back after 3 days of deliberation. Nessa, Guilty on all counts, sentenced to 25 years in federal prison. Danny. Guilty on all counts, 30 years. Carmen. Guilty on reduced charges, 5 years probation and community service. I felt a mixture of satisfaction and emptiness as the sentences were read. I'd gotten what I wanted: justice, revenge, vindication. But it didn't feel as sweet as I'd expected. After the trial, I ran into Nessa's lawyer in the courthouse hallway. "She wants to see you," he said. "I don't think that's a good idea. She says she has something to tell you, something important." Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet her in the attorney conference room. Nessa looked older, smaller, diminished by her orange jumpsuit and the weight of her conviction. "Hello, Mike." "Nessa? I suppose you're satisfied now." "I'm satisfied that justice was done." "Justice?" She laughed bitterly. "Is that what you call it? What would you call it?" "The end of everything I worked for, everything I dreamed of. Dreams built on betraying your country. Dreams of a better life, of luxury, of respect, of being more than just another government worker's wife." I looked at her, seeing clearly for perhaps the first time in our entire relationship. "You were never going to be happy, were you? No matter what I did, what I provided, what I sacrificed, it was never going to be enough." "No," she said quietly. "It wasn't." "Then I'm glad it's over." "Mike?" "Yeah?" "I did love you, at the beginning, before everything got complicated. I loved you too. But love wasn't enough. No, it wasn't." I left the courthouse and walked out into the DC sunshine. For the first time in over a year, I felt truly free. Not happy, not satisfied, but free. The boring government guy had won, and that was enough.